He is.
There we go.
I have been
Undoubtedly,
accused of sainthood a couple times, but I always deny it.
but it is true nonetheless.
Yes.
Well, I will accept third standard deviation patient, for those of you who understand what the standard deviation is.
Okay, wasn't expecting it till late tonight. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
So what's new, everyone?
Well, I'm gonna hold another mock jury.
Good.
And speaking of the devil, you're muted,
Whoops,
Sharon.
she's muted.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Sharon.
I was hoping to see you last week.
You were back?
Yeah, I only came for like the last 10 minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, I
Just
can't
to see
remember.
you. Just to see you, Bonnie. She
Oh.
came in.
I can't remember what happened last week. Last night, though, I want you to know, I set the alarm on my phone for 3:40 so that I wouldn't miss it. Yikes. Hey, even Allison is here.
Yeah. Hey, Bonnie.
So was it a trip of a lifetime, Sharon?
It was great, thank you. It was great. Iceland is, we were in Turkey and Greece and France too, but Iceland is, that was our last stop, and that's quite the, if anybody's not been there, it is quite the place. It is very different. It was great. It's just very different, dramaticness.
It is one of those places I would love to go.
Yep. If you decide to go, let's chat.
Will do. My sister and brother-in-law went, but they did one of those, they live in Baltimore, and you could go for like $99 round trip.
Oh,
This
on
was a
Iceland
couple
Air.
years ago. And they loved it, but they didn't, they were only there a couple of days.
Oh, yeah, it really takes, we were there 11 days. It doesn't take that long, but the jet lag part helps. But we took a 10-day small group tour that went like on a oversized Sprinter van, that not the kind you guys use, but the bigger Sprinters that carried 18 people, and went all the way around the island. So
My
That would be
father
really
was there in 1944, 1943. It was before D-Day,
yeah,
because he was in England on D-Day, but he was in Iceland before they moved him to England.
I bet it's pretty different then. There's
I'm
only
sure it was.
370,000 people there now. There must have been 200,000 then.
No,
But it is pretty cool. It's very, very different.
he said they got there and they started unloading the ships. And they kept unloading the ships. And even though it was broad daylight, the men started to have serious problems, and they realized, oh, it's midnight.
Yeah, yeah,
Or,
yeah.
you know, it's 11 at night, and these guys have been working for 15 hours. No wonder they're falling down.
It's really disconcerting. You think it's not dinner time yet, but you're hungry, and then it's like, it's not bedtime yet, but it's 11. I mean, it's like, because the sun's up almost all the time this time of year.
Yeah.
So
Imagine if you were a Muslim and it was Ramadan there, and Ramadan was in the summer, you could die.
I guess I shouldn't laugh.
yeah.
Hey, we're
I actually
Go ahead.
have a booth question. And I've been using a corner shot because I'm a jeweler. I'm a jeweler. I've been using a corner shot forever. You know, I look at all my past booths, they're all corners. And so Eric just took a new booth shot, and he took one with 3 sides and one with a corner, but the one with 3 sides, it makes everything so distant. The corner one, it just really looks better. If I look at the 2 shots, it just looks better. And because you could just see the booth more, you could even like kind of make out some things in the cases. And so there's always this, I mean, I understand why let's say 2D or sculpture, somebody who's using all sides would need it, but I pretty much set up as a faux corner so people can come into my booth, and it seems to work rather than having my cases straight across. So, you know, of course I want to get into shows, and you know, how hard is that rule?
Can you
That's
drop
the
in?
less, isn't that the less,
I mean, I don't know if that rule is enforced at all.
no,
Wait,
that's
I
less,
I just got on the middle of this. What was the rule?
The 3-walled booth picture.
Oh, who
Well-
cares?
remember
Well-
when Les brought that up?
Well, that was the only time. And he changed the definition of a booth picture overnight.
Yes.
Who's that?
Les Slesnick.
Oh, sorry, I heard.
Oh, please.
Oh, please.
Somebody
is
that was
right.
given him much more importance than they deserved.
What do you really think, Barry?
I just spoke to him the other day.
Great.
It's because he emailed
So-
me.
Hi, Sharon.
You
Hi,
have,
Barry.
Ellison, you've got a beautiful booth image.
Yeah,
I
what does the 3-walled booth picture look like, Alice?
Well, it's the third wall is actually opened.
So,
And it's also more distant. So my
But you-
banners are huge, but yeah.
yeah, but you can crop in.
See, I would
No,
add the
because
question.
then she loses the 3 wall.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
but
would
you
add-
know, I just worked on a booth picture for a jeweler,
Yeah.
and she always has it open on the right-hand side completely.
Oh, really?
And it's
Interesting.
very distracting. So,
Oh.
so I just cropped right into the edge and it looks really good.
Can you see the third wall?
Now,
I mean, so that's exactly how mine is. You see, you know, it's shot where you could see, I have a banner on, let's say, the left side, and then a banner in the back with some colored panels. And it's more close in, so you could see the booth better. Where if you see the whole third side, everything is just farther away. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it sounds like what you did is basically gave a 2-walled booth.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was
Okay.
working from her existing booth pictures and I improved it significantly.
Right, right.
Because you don't want to see distractions.
Mhm.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, it's not, Eric didn't Photoshop anything out yet, but I have a whole artist statement, which he just makes it look white, because if it was blurred, I think that would be distracting.
Shouldn't have hung it there at all for the picture.
Yeah, but it has a really beautiful photograph of a bracelet.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
then
thing.
put another photograph over the statement.
Yeah, it's a
Oh.
problem.
Photoshop, see, then I have to play with photo. The other thing is the bracelet
Well-
looks good on its own. So I don't know. And the banner in the back, you know, of course, there's my name that's huge, and that all
Yeah.
that's going to be. And then there's a photograph of me, which also has to disappear.
Oh.
So,
Right.
Yeah, you gotta take those out.
well, the jurors
you-
have to know the banners are photoshopped. I mean,
Now,
Yes.
did you set it up for the picture?
it was at a show,
Okay, so that's
but
the problem.
you know, we got there early and we set it up for the picture at the show.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have hung the banners yet.
But then it
Yeah,
looks,
that's-
no,
It
it
looks
looks like nothing
dorky.
without.
Yeah,
Right,
it
it's
looks
just
plain
plain.
without the banners.
Right.
Ooh.
But if
The
the banners
banners-
have your name on it, it's,
Then-
But they have pictures on it. If there were no banners, then everyone would say, oh, the booth is so minimal, because it would just be plain white with these teal colored panels,
Well,
and it just wouldn't even make sense.
what about pictures without your name on it and then have just that be a separate one? Like I have a banner, an 8-foot banner with just my name.
Right. I'm not going to spend money on other banners that I'm not going to use except just for a booth shot. I mean, it's, you know, the whole design and layout of the booth is,
Wouldn't you,
I mean,
wouldn't you
I'm
hang
just-
those? in?
pardon?
Wouldn't you hang those in the booth? Because you say that there's nothing there. You're, okay, you have your name and a piece or pieces. you know.
Huge. No, I have
Yeah.
one banner is six feet long, and it's got this huge
Yeah.
image And then my name is on top, so
Oh.
that'll be photoshopped out.
Mm.
And then the
Uh-huh.
other banner is about 3 by 6 long, and there's this long bracelet with next to it is an artist statement. So it might be okay with all of the picture of me and the artist statement photoshopped out, because you'll still see the bracelet.
Mhm.
And
Well,
hopefully the jurors
hey,
know enough.
Yes.
Sharon would know
Yeah.
this. Sharon, when there people are judging, they're judges at your show. And what do they say about the booth shot? Does anybody actually mention it, or is it just there?
On the jury
Yeah.
day, we don't talk in our jury, but the booth shot carries a lot of weight.
It
What do
does.
they look for?
Carries a
in the-
lot of weight.
and
So,
what are they
Okay.
looking, what are
Can
they
I-
looking for in the booth shot, Sharon?
good representation, good representation of, and presentation of your work. Like it
But-
looks cohesive and it's well displayed.
But
It
you
doesn't look
can't-
like a
but
flea
you-
market, that
But
kind
you
of
can't
stuff,
see,
right?
you can't see the jewelry though in most jewelry booth shots.
Right. And I
So
was
all
gonna-
you can see is the general look of it, that it's not going to look like a flea market, as you're saying.
Right, and
Yeah.
I would say, I was gonna say to you, I mean, I can just speak for us and a few directors I know, but I won't say, is I would much rather see a corner shot for a jeweler where you can get zoomed in better, or take
Yeah.
the side off like Larry was talking about, because the problem with the straight on, straight on look and the case is straight across the front or, towards the back, whatever, but straight across,
Mhm.
you really can't see those.
Right.
All you see is, oh, that person has really pretty black cases or purple skirts or, whatever your cases look like.
Right.
Whereas when you do that corner, you get a much better, I think, much better view
Yes.
of what this probably looks like. I can
Mhm.
tell that they're large silver with stones in them. I mean, I can at least tell it goes with your images,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really-
Right.
Sorry.
I'd much rather see a corner if it were a jeweler.
Yeah.
Because you want to see the pieces too.
Yeah, I want to see the cohesion of her work and that, does it kind of look like what her images look like? It's not gold, her images are silver and, just,
Mhm.
and the overall presentation from a jeweler. And then the other thing that we look at, the value of booth shots, is not just the cohesion and how well displayed it is and professional and not looking like a flea market and all that, is for some categories, the scale. Right, because if you look
The
at
scale,
ceramic
yeah.
work or
Yes.
Yeah.
glass or all that, it's this really pretty image that's that big, fills the screen, that's all
Mhm.
great. But we don't know, is that 2 feet tall or 2 inches tall? Right? You have no
Yeah.
clue about scale. Same thing's true at
Right.
2D, but 3, it really,
So I
Sure,
can't
so-
take a piece that's 5 inches and take a photograph of it and send it use it as my image and say it's 4 feet tall.
Well, you could.
you could, but then when I look at your booth image, I find that out. Right?
Well, not necessarily, because I make them all different sizes. So
Oh,
I could do
well,
a small one.
but
I could do a small one to make look like a big one. I'm just goofing around because I don't do that. I think that you can tell if you take a small piece and say it's big, but then again, I don't necessarily know if that's actually true because.
But don't we have to list the dimensions on Zap
So
anyway?
what?
you do, but I gotta tell you, in the
Think
jury
about it.
room, nobody pays
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's good.
It's too much information,
Right, okay, and that's really good. You're right. If you see the scale of a ceramic artist, you could see if they're 3 feet tall or,
Uh-huh.
however,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing
Um,
you can see is this is really applicable to jewelers, but other people too. In the booth shot, we can see how much work there is. Like, think about jewelers, right? You present really beautiful pieces,
Mhm,
and then we look at the booth shot, and there's some really beautiful pieces,
mhm.
and then there's walls full of cards of earrings.
Yes, yes,
Right?
okay.
So we
Yeah.
can see that, and then it's like, is this all hers or not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How
Or
could
is-
one person make all that?
Right, and
Yeah.
is she
Yeah.
really selling little earrings, or are we really selling beautiful necklaces? I mean, what's going on here? So, and in jewelry, that's a really big deal. In our case, when we start seeing those cards on the walls, we're pretty done with that jeweler. Unless,
What I love
Unless-
is when you see two jewelers with the same work because they bought it at the same place.
right, so you can also see that particularly in the booth shot, because they probably aren't gonna show that in the images. They're probably wise
Right.
to that. But the booth shot, now we start seeing, oh, look, these cards look like those cards. Or these little earrings look like those little earrings. Her big jewelry is different, but look at all these little earrings that are the same, right? So, yeah, that's really helpful with jewelers. And we hope that, in our case, we hope that helps the jewelers on the ones who are honest, right? I
Right.
mean,
You know,
because
I-
jewelry's a tough category for that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Oh.
2D also. I walked around once with a guy from initially from Hong Kong, or and he moved here, and we were walking around, and he was like, you can buy this painting on the street
Right.
in Hong Kong for $5. And we went from like a number of booths, and they exist.
Oh.
Yeah.
It used to be, it was really bad, and then a bunch of us caused a lot of problems by speaking up, and then it kind of died down. But then there was COVID, and it's like roaches. They're coming out of the woodwork. All the same old people that had their crap out there. They're like, oh well, it's a new year, new people. We're gonna get it. We're gonna put our stuff out there, and you got to go through the same thing over again. Except that I'm too old to do that, to even
Now,
bother with
does
it.
that happen? Does that happen with ceramics too? Because there's some nice looking ceramics coming out of like China and stuff that I see in
Well, listen,
stores.
if I wanted to, and I was doing functional stuff, like my stuff, you can't duplicate, and I don't think anybody wants to anyway. But if you could duplicate, you can't duplicate what I do. There's no way. And hey, listen, I'll show people how to do it. If they want to go through all that trouble, let them do it. That's great. Okay, but functional pots, I have I eat in a Thai restaurant in town. It's really fantastic. It's as good as anywhere. And he tells me that his family's in the import-export business. And if I made mugs and stuff like that, I could give him samples, and they would hand make them, in Thailand.
Right.
In Thailand. And you get around the signature by making a stamp, so you could actually stamp it, and it would look like mine.
Right.
I always threaten. I always make jokes about, I'm gonna come back here with functional pieces that's made that I'm gonna pay $2 a piece and sell them for 25. But I never do that. I just talk about it because it's frustrating.
It is. I wonder if there's, I don't know, some way to protect ourselves. Like, this might not be the best example, but there's organic, I think Oregon Tilth is an organic certification, for example, and it's more stringent than other types of organic farming. And I wonder, I mean,
Oh yeah.
in this country, I don't think it would ever happen. But if there's some, certification one could get, and you have to go through a process, and somebody visits your studio and see. I mean, anyone who comes to my studio would see right away. And when I talk to my neighbors at shows, and they start talking about their work, I mean, just the way they talk about it, with the ideas and the passion and the things they're thinking about in the future,
Yeah.
they're making their work.
Yeah.
But if artists had this certification, they could have that on their Zap sort of.
All right,
No,
wait a second. That's
they tried
another
that.
thing that Les Lesnick proposed.
Yeah,
that
that
never
was
failed
not popular.
What?
That
What?
didn't
You
go-
start, the first time you ever had a meeting, you'd start going to artists, well, don't worry about it, you're already certified. And it's like, well, the certification process didn't even happen yet. Just because he knows them doesn't mean
Right.
it's real. If you're gonna have a certification process, then it has to be legitimately set up and
Everyone.
done by people that aren't biased. And isn't there a way that you can do image captures, and there's sites that you can look for that image on the internet?
Yeah.
You can do that in Google.
Yeah.
Just
and
put
is
the
that-
image in Google.
And how successful would that kind of an approach be for promoters, that before the jury ever sees the work, to make sure anybody they have questions about, that they could confirm whether that work exists in more than one location, which means it's not made by the artist.
That's a lot of time, though. I mean, for the jury process, it doesn't seem so practical.
No,
We
this
do
is
it. We do
where-
it afterwards. We don't do up front, because then you have to do everybody, right, which is more of them.
Right,
We do
yes.
that if we're
lim-
suspicious about the
It's
people
a
who
great
got
idea.
in.
It's
Yeah.
good.
Artists
Then
and
we'll go
artists.
Yeah,
check.
in between.
And how do
the-
you go check?
A lot of us are friends.
Yeah.
Seem
Yeah.
to forget that fact.
Yes,
And
ask
so
around.
we call, right? And we
Yeah.
call, like I haven't called Bonnie in the past, but now that I know her more after all this COVID time, you know, if I was concerned about a jeweler, I might call her. And I
Please
would-
do.
Wait a minute,
Right.
You're call, if you call the person that you're thinking about.
No,
of course
no,
you're
not,
gonna-
no,
No,
not, no,
Somebody-
not Bonnie for her, Bonnie
You
for,
call- No,
what
what
do
I'm, right, that's right. But I mean, because I've, you know, I've complained about somebody and then they end up calling that person. Well, that person's gonna say, oh, of course I made it. They're the ones that
well, you know,
are scamming, you know?
we might call another director. We
Yeah.
might do the image capture thing. We might talk to artists that we know well. You know, they're kind of our not advisors, but they keep confidence if we ask them a question.
Yeah.
We have known
Right.
them a long
That's a
time.
good thing.
We
So
do that.
it's old school network.
It's just sort of
Yeah.
snooping
Yeah.
around, you know, and
But it's important because I was just at a show this last weekend where the person who got the Best of Show award turned out to be by Sal.
Of course,
And that's a-
it happens.
Oh,
How many
we
times has that-
we have one of those. That was in, it was early on. It was probably in,
But not only did they get
10.
the award, they should never have been in the show.
right,
That's
exactly.
The
right.
whole
That's
system,
right.
The whole
system
thing.
failed.
So
Right.
I have a question that's partially rhetorical because who, you know, but why is Fox River wood products still around,
Yeah,
being
it's not
in
Fox
shows?
River.
I just
This
did
is
one
what
a
you're
few
talking
months
Hudson
ago.
Valley.
Yeah, Hudson Valley,
Yeah.
you
You
know.
see this? Oh, you can't. I have their brochure here. It's Hudson River Inlay.
Whatever,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Right.
before that, it was Creative Woods.
Yeah.
I believe it was Creative Woods when it was our best show. And like I said, that was in it was in 09 or something. And we found out after the fact. And yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, well, people will let you
the thing is,
know.
well, the thing is, it's nice work. It's just a different
Yeah.
category and doesn't qualify for certain shows. That's all.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's our little niche is, there aren't as many opportunities. I mean, they're
that's
You
right.
should-
commercial.
It's,
They should be in
Exactly.
stores, not at art shows.
it's
Mhm.
tough
Right.
enough.
So I heard that the watch people are emerging again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Isbell.
they're all the baddies are out there. What do you mean? Name another one. They're, you know, it's like, we started
Yeah,
this
that
over.
was, I spoke to the people at Three Rivers about that. And there's only one show in the country that didn't reject them, and that was
Oh.
Salt Lake City or something.
Oh, you mean the one coming up, the Utah Arts
No,
Festival?
no, this was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh.
But the Mystera watches.
Yeah.
And so I asked Three Rivers about that, and she said, well, we called Salt Lake City and they said they're legitimate. And I said, you called the only show in the country that let them in.
How did they know that?
They probably told them, call here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Well, look at the
Oh,
whole
that's so
Greta Cannon thing.
The what?
Ah,
You know, that's a
Greta,
total-
she was the one, she's a jeweler. She used stolen,
Oh, yeah.
engineered, you know, images,
Oh,
including
yeah, I
the wood
remember
shop.
that one.
Well, she
Mhm.
was the third jeweler that got caught.
And she was
Well-
doing it for like a good 5 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So who
Okay.
else was doing that?
So I brought it up, Sharon, at must have been the last meeting. And one of the directors said to me afterwards, who's also a friend, did you notice that there was just silence? So I hope everybody took it in.
Oh.
Does that mean that they're guilty of letting them in and they're not going to do anything about it? Is that why they're silent?
No, they can't. They have to not let them in. There's too much
Well-
pressure.
Mhm.
Sort of.
They have
Unless
to
you ignore
do,
it.
That's social media, like changed everything.
yeah, but the show directors, if they have a board, they have to answer to them. they're a little more concerned with liability issues. As far as saying her name, not that
Oh.
I'm not concerned, but her name is out there. So I am not the first one to say it.
Hmm.
Yeah, because we have to be, more than 100% positive we're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
Sure.
otherwise there's a liability issue for defaming someone's name and
Well-
damaging their sale. So sometimes I think it feels like the shows are too slow. On the other hand, they have to be sure. And that's not to defend everybody, because I know plenty of people who don't take it seriously. So, kind
Well,
of depends on.
There's a
I
way
think,
kind of,
excuse me, I think one of the reasons it was taken seriously is because Sydney Lynch, whose piece was stolen, actually called, she called St. Louis. That's right. That's how it started. And then she called Park City. And it was her assistant of 25 years who saw the pictures.
Right.
well, her assistant who made the actual piece
Right.
is the one that contacted Sydney about the whole thing. Because
then the
Sydney
woman-
had a huge wholesale business.
Right.
So she had, lots of employees.
And then the woman whose
Spectacular
booth,
work.
and the woman whose booth was stolen, it was taken from, she gave approval to Dynamic Displays to use her booth as an example, and it had been up for about 8 years. And so it was just swiped from that website.
Yeah.
I think that's the real ballsy one.
I mean, one of the
Almost funny,
jewelers, they took the booth picture from a jeweler here in Pittsburgh that I shot the picture.
Oh,
And so I contacted Zap and they had me send them the raw files to prove that I was the original photographer.
so
Interesting.
the thing with the Greta situation with the booth shot, if we could see into those cases, then the work would be different than her jury images. But then she photoshopped
Mhm.
behind the booth the images that are in her jury images.
Yes.
Right.
But
Well,
are
I've
your,
got
but what you're
lots
saying,
of-
is your booth image supposed to reflect, are the images you submit with your application supposed to be all of them seen in your jury slide? Or are they supposed to be representative of the body of work that you present, and that the images that are seen in your booth slide can be different?
Yes, it
Oh,
could be different.
representative.
Represent.
Representative.
Yeah.
I don't have those pieces by the time, if it's yeah.
yeah.
But what you do have and what you show up with and what you show is of the same caliber and style and all that, right?
And
I
from-
mean, that's,
And from your experience, Sharon, do most promoters that you know personally have a discussion with their jurors before the jury process starts as to how to view booth slides?
yeah, well, the people I know, yes. And we did. I mean, we had, it's part of our jury instructions and what the reason for the booth slide is and all that. And we don't say, I don't know anybody who does say, well, you should give X% weight to this and that, we don't try to make them do that math. It's still really their overall impression. But talking about that booth slide has value. I mean, that's not just there by accident, right? Now, I know there are shows, I believe Des Moines is one, who doesn't use a booth slide at all. I think it's them.
Right, there's others too, yeah.
And,
You send one though.
pardon me?
You send a booth slide to Des Moines.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
I'm doing it. I think I'm pretty sure I did. I think it would stand out that, that
Lake,
if there
yeah,
wasn't.
I imagine
Lakefront
that
did-
Stephen
Yeah,
uses it
lakefront,
to check
no booth.
himself.
But there's no lakefront either.
No.
Meanwhile, I'm
I
packing for Des
know.
Moines.
That makes me sad.
Is Lakefront done?
It
Well,
appears.
They
wow.
they said they're not having the show in 2022, and they didn't say anything else about it. I spoke with somebody who's she's a jeweler, a member of the museum, and had done the show, and she said we should all write letters to Lakefront because apparently the members of the museum are upset about it.
Maybe.
So-
That was a great show. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it was
Boston-
great-
Austin
great-
Mills is gone too, at least
Oh.
temporarily.
And I had
Well,
automatic
hopefully-
entry to Lakefront. I mean, so it's even more frustrating.
That's
Hopefully Boston Mills isn't for good.
Hopefully not.
They were
Being
doing,
discussed, yeah, but it's gone this year. There's no guarantee it's gonna be back next year, right?
it's because of construction.
Well, I heard
That's-
it was because it was sold to Vale.
No,
Again?
that happened
Oh.
a while ago.
So you're thinking when it's construction, it's stopping it this year?
Yeah, they were redoing all of the chairlifts or something in that area. So their staging area is where the tents were. So they couldn't handle an art fair on top of that.
Well,
I liked it when the
Scottsdale,
Ludwigs owned the ski hill.
They should have just held the art fair in the parking lot.
Ugh,
It's big enough.
Yeah, I second
Well,
that one. No, it's
Yeah.
better
That-
back there when when it rains, it all, it goes down the ski hill,
Right,
floods
The mud.
everything.
the mud.
I was there a couple times.
Scottsdale Arts Festival was on hiatus because of construction and then COVID. But it on their website, it says they are gonna happen in 2023. So
Mm.
at least there's one back. But
My
quite a few
local
shows
show
ended.
that I have a local show here in Grand Rapids that I ran for a few years, way back when. They could not get enough volunteers to put the show on. We're not talking about day of show, but just to put the show on. So they, instead of making an announcement, they decided that maybe nobody will notice.
Oh.
So they said nothing. So I managed their Facebook page and I'm getting message after message after message. People want to know, make an announcement. So we don't know if they're coming back. That's the Reed's Lake Art Fair, if anybody is curious.
You posted that on Facebook the other day about that. Them going away.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I got after 3 months of being off Facebook, I have a site. I got back on. People are hesitant to sign up because my old site was hacked and stolen, and they're still using it to try and scam money from people.
Mm.
Did you
Facebook
s-
does nothing.
Did you
So
send me an
basically,
email?
they're using me. I'm representing them illegally. I mean, I'm not really not. They're using my site to steal money from people. So if any of you hear from me in Facebook Messenger, because I'm not, or have in the last 3 months, because the guy's still doing it.
Wow.
Like he has no life. This is what he has to do. But on the other hand, I have a new site, so you can find it. You just use my name, and I have a picture of me on it when I was 15 years old, and you can tell it's me because the ears are bigger than my face. So so I want all of you to sign up, to sign up to,
The real.
That's some
page.
traction.
yeah, so I can get back on. So anyway, I'm just
So
telling you.
what's the name of your page? The Real Barry Bernstein?
No, you signed up a thing and I didn't realize that that's going to be my name. So I just used my name again. So it's, I was going to do a different name or like add my middle name or something. But I thought we were going to get to that when you signed up, but no, that's your name. So it's me, and you can tell it's me because of that picture.
Yeah, did you send an email out?
Mm, Yeah, yes, I did.
It's
I
picked-
something.
My Gmail account had about 50 people on it that I recognized, from the show. So I just used those people. I didn't really,
Okay. No, because I didn't open the email because I didn't know if it was legitimate.
I know, and that's a problem now. My reputation is shot. Hey, I want to start a, well, maybe it was already shot, but
Well,
but
I didn't want to point out the obvious.
yes, yeah. So what can I say?
So anyone here do any shows recently in the last month or so?
This weekend.
This weekend?
Yeah, Des Moines is in 3 days. Anybody else going to be there?
I'm hoping somebody sells out at Des Moines and cancels Cherry Creek.
Yeah. Yes, you
Good
do
luck.
hope that.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, let me tell you something. The last time I did Des Moines, it was 105 degrees
Uh-huh.
and really you could like fry eggs on the ground. It was horrible. So I've been looking at the weather. The weather's been okay, right? What's happening now? A massive heat wave. So it's going to be 100 degrees again.
Oh,
Did people come out with that kind of weather?
It didn't last time. Well, they came out, but not for very long. It was
Yeah.
very uncomfortable. So we'll see.
And the problem is the hours are so brutally long.
Yeah, till 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm
that heat-
packing. I have
that
pieces
heat, though.
behind me.
I've been.
So are
looking
you
into
doing it?
shade cloth.
What?
Hi there,
Karen?
guys. I've been looking
Karen.
into shade cloth with UV protection to add to my ceiling in the booth.
I used it as my sides. It was the stuff that I got it through Gardener's Supplies
Oh, I remember you were talking about that.
because you can get different weaves and you can't hang from it. I mean, it's not that kind of thing, but different
Yeah.
weaves give you different protection.
Well, I just went to Lowe's and they had a nice assortment of what they call sail cloth or sail shades. And I found two that I really like. So I'm going to come up with some strategy for these hot art fairs this year.
Well, the sails, the cloth that they use for those is much more opaque, isn't it?
It's I'm looking at an 80% UV protection. It's knitted, so air goes through it.
Okay.
And I found, and the edges are finished more nicely than my old shade cloth. It just looks prettier. And I have there's some loops that are sewn into the corners, which will be easy to use for the ceiling.
Have you considered hanging a fan, an upside down fan from the rafters?
Oh yeah, I do that already, but I
Okay.
need to have additional sun protection
Mhm.
because the sun is not my friend.
I get that.
Yeah, I
Well,
know you do.
John Hecker was my roadie one year for Ann Arbor. And it was going to be my last year because I had basically checked out. My last year at that show. He MacGyvered my booth. Oh my God. Now he's a great MacGyver kind of guy. But he put fans in the ceiling and it was probably the most comfortable I've ever been at that show. And it was hot.
Yeah, last year I had a little extra money and I got one of the fans that has a mister component where you put it on a bucket of water and it makes a super fine mist. I will be taking that to a few of these art fairs, mainly for me, not my customers.
Yeah.
It'll help keep the dust down if there is dust also.
Karen, what shows are you doing?
I just finished a 6-week exhibit at the Cultural Center, and so that's done. I will be doing the
Congratulations.
Thank you. The Salem Art Fair is up next in about 3 weeks in July. They have moved us out of the shade of the trees into the open field. So I already know that it's going to be pretty difficult with the sun. So I will be prepared. After that, I do a local show that's indoors, thank goodness, here at the Oregon coast where it's about 58 degrees in the morning. And then I'll do Art in the Pearl followed by St. Louis. And I'm happy to say that I have been invited to return after being on the wait list.
Great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So,
for all
so you
my-
got, did you get into St. Louis off the wait list this year? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't
would-
expect it.
I would take that any way I could get it.
Well, yeah, I think we all feel that way, but I was a little stunned, for all my mock jury preparation and fine tuning of my application. I wound up on the wait list. I was a bit mortified that happened, but it just makes us work harder.
I'm really
That's surprising.
surprised because I've seen your images and seen your booth.
It
You
did,
know?
it did not wow that jury. So
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, it's a coin flip. There's a lot of people that are equal in quality.
Mhm.
So it could be somebody's having a bad day and rejects you. That's my thing with Cherry Creek. It's every other year or every third year, and I go, oh, I didn't get in. But the truth is that you talk to other people, then they go, they never get in. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
getting in every other year is way better than not getting in at all.
Right. Yeah. I've not gone in Cherry Creek. I kind of gave up trying.
Don't listen. My biggest recommendation is to keep applying because you sooner or later you'll get in.
Yeah,
And it's
I
Can't
know.
worth
get in if you don't
it's
apply.
worth 10 years of
I know
rejection to
that.
get in. Right,
So
Allison?
Karen, are you able to sell at hot shows?
Well, I work at that. I really do. And I'm very grateful for customers who've met me other places. And it's a lot easier because then they show up and we already understand what we need to do.
Right.
Sometimes like doing the Omaha show when it's brutally hot
Uh-huh.
on the street, it's really difficult. I get that.
Mhm. But yeah, I know somebody who does not boiled wool. It's like, I don't understand all the processes, but it's
Felted?
felted wool and with silk in it and things like that. And when she gets into Cherry Creek, she seems to do fine. But I've heard complaints from a lot of textile people that they're much better with fall shows than
Sure.
summer. So
No, we are. Then that's the other reason I'm working really hard at creating a different environment within my tent through the mister or the additional shade cloth. I have to make it a better experience that they'll want to be out of the sun.
right.
And I guess the other key is to have things that look like they're lighter
Yeah.
to entice them.
So,
yeah.
so how was that 6-week thing that you did?
Well, I could write a book about it. I was thrilled to have an opportunity to to exhibit my work to what I consider my local community. This is within 2 counties on the coast. The cultural center is amazingly located where there's a lot of tourist traffic. And there are other activities within the cultural center, such as theater and dance and artist studios, that there was a lot of cross traffic, which I benefited from. It was not high volume, which suited me. It allowed me to kind of get over my anxieties about dealing with people with COVID. And it was a big spacious room with huge windows that I could open. So the environment was ideal.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the director quit, and I kind of realized that I needed to step up. And so I basically had a job 4 days a week, 10 to 4, representing my own work. And I wound up doing like 2 or 3 different Zoom meetings to get people engaged. But I think I had record sales from other activities in that same room. So financially, I did fine, and I've met new people. What I found really amazing is that they turn to me for the experience that has to do with the business of doing art, and they really needed to hear what I was recommending. I wasn't being pushy about it, but it was obvious to me that there was some handling money wasn't as easy as it could be. So I educated myself and shared the information, and I think I left them in better shape than when I got there.
Does not surprise me.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, but it's like finding the perfect software program that will work within an entity that's as complex as the cultural center. Square may not be the ideal answer. So we had to just dig deeper and found something called Zettel, which is through PayPal. And hopefully they actually put a bid in to upgrade their credit card machine. to get something that's more contemporary and easier for the volunteers to use that would actually record cash sales. That was one of the obstacles.
Did you say Zell?
No, not Zell, Zettel.
Okay.
Right. So, and Karen, you know, when you're at St. Louis regarding dealing with people, I mean, as a jeweler, it's easy because we have this barrier in between. And I'm just talking about because of COVID. You know, the way you normally set up your booth, I mean, maybe there's, I don't know if you use a pedestal or anything, but you might consider, especially at St. Louis, which will be a crowded show, you might consider using a pedestal that you could maybe sit behind to just give you a little distance between people physically. I don't know if you've considered that at all.
My strategy right now is to do what some jewelers do. I will have two walls open of the booth. We all have a corner, and I will be putting the inventory on those outside walls.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
great.
will be standing in the middle. But that still doesn't get me away from that close personal contact when I need to fit them for alterations to a piece.
Right.
And at that time, all I can do is request that they wear a mask and approach it that way.
Yeah. So you should bring masks with you also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you put it on you, not on them. Just saying that you've got some health issues and you would appreciate if they would wear a mask.
Well, that's what I learned about having this exhibit for 6 weeks. When I was wearing a mask, people would walk in without it, and they stopped and they said, "Oh, do you want me to wear a mask?" And my response was, "It would be helpful for me if you would wear one." And then there was one right there. So I'm getting there. I had to practice that.
Okay, good. But there's all these things. It's a new world out there now, and and most people hopefully are pretty reasonable.
I hope so too. I think, like I said, I needed to have the experience of dealing with the public with the COVID issue in play. And I was, a year ago, I was extremely anxious. I didn't want to deal with the confrontation or the politics.
Right.
And that's the truth of it. I didn't want to be there to argue with someone.
Right.
And I needed an art fair that was going to protect me in that way, which is they are going to give us signs or masks or to kind of set the tone for what was going to be okay and what's not okay.
When I did the last time Fort Myers is a really good example of this. I skipped Fort Myers this year, but the year before, it was right in the middle of the COVID thing. And Sharon did this great thing with, having the gate and people had to take their temperature and all that stuff. And they made them wear masks, but a lot of people took the masks off when they got inside, which was okay. But that isn't where the problem was. Not at the show. I always felt safe, but you went up 2 blocks on the street where the food is and nobody was wearing masks at all. Nobody cared. And now around here, the quote, the caption would say, "What COVID?" Very few people except the workers in some places are wearing masks, but nobody else is. And it's a college town. No college students are wearing masks.
We're back up to it's suggested that people wear masks because rates are going up, and there are some businesses that they are required, like the post office, you have to wear a mask. Here anyway.
Not anymore.
I'm in Santa Fe.
You don't have to do that anymore.
And we went to like a medium level, and so they're suggesting it, but I guess individual businesses can say, please wear a mask before you come in.
Well, come to Florida, right? We have, good luck to you in Florida, right? I mean, it's like.
And you know what DeSantis said, he actually had a point, not that I love DeSantis, don't get me wrong. He said, they relaxed all their regulations, and the incidence of COVID was the same. They were right in the middle. They weren't the worst and they weren't the best. So his point was it didn't matter. You would get it or not get it anyway.
Yeah, except that I'd rather see the numbers. Yeah. Just because he's saying it doesn't really mean anything.
Those of us who live here and are not DeSantis fans,
Mhm.
Yeah,
are
right.
fairly well convinced that the numbers are wrong. I mean, the numbers aren't
skewed.
honest. Our
Yeah,
numbers
really.
aren't honest.
I'm sure.
Great.
I'm sure.
So,
Good to know, huh?
but,
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we live in this environment. And so for us, it's harder coming, to 23 to keep. We're not as
know-
strict as we were in 20 and 21. I mean, 21, we were like, put your mask
Yeah.
back on or we're going to kick you
Mhm.
out. I mean, we
Yeah,
were unpleasant in 21 about it.
yeah, I definitely was in my booth.
Yeah, I was like,
In Chicago, I went to a restaurant inside, which I don't so often, and they wanted to see your vaccination card.
wow,
Mhm.
wow.
I carry
I'm
all that
also
stuff with me.
going to use strategies like Uber Eats. If I need to stay in the hotel room, I
Mhm.
will have food delivered. It's just going to be an additional cost to do in the art fair, but it will also keep me a little safer, a little bit longer.
Right.
Well, we were just discussing this for our show, which is in February.
It's indoors.
Indoors. And it's the whole political thing. I really didn't want to deal with that last year. We didn't have a show, but this year we're going to ask that people wear masks, but we're not going to kick them out if they don't.
Mhm.
We're taking a much, you do what you have to do for you. I personally will be wearing a mask because I just have too much medical shit going on.
But
Yeah.
also have masks available to their
Oh,
kids
yes.
now.
So,
I'm teaching in just in November in Berkeley, California, an in-person class, and they're requiring that they want to see people's student and mine vaccination cards, and then every day you get your temperature taken and you have to wear a mask. And they also invested in some sort of filtration system.
Luckily, we have very good ventilation in the primary building that we use.
mhm.
It's only a few years old and they put in good stuff. But I
haven't-
have to tell you, I'm still kind of nervous about it.
It's hard to
Yeah.
know that by February, right?
You
It's
know, I don't think about it
Yeah.
at all anymore.
it's-
You know what? I either didn't get COVID or I got it right away after, Bonnie, after your show, the last time we had it. I was a little sick afterwards, but I think it had to do more with, there's a process where we work like crazy, go to a show, come back, work like crazy. And I had a few years of that. And then all of a sudden it would cut off. There was nothing. So my body, either I had COVID right away or my body reacted to it, not doing anything, because I was very tired for a while. I didn't get, I never had a fever. I didn't get sick, but you don't know, what
Well,
it was.
It was 13 days before the shutdown. Our show
Oh, your
was.
show.
Yeah, well, but that also means that people were walking around with COVID and not knowing it.
Right.
Well,
You
I've
know?
learned that when you go travel to a show, bring some of those free government COVID tests with you.
Yeah.
You know,
You could get 'em.
and after Chicago, both Eric and I felt fine, but we were going to go visit friends on our way home. And so we did take a test and, they were negative, but, just seemed like a prudent thing to do because we were going to go stay with some people.
When I went to Baltimore in 2020, I came home and I had a mild illness, but it lasted for a month. And I rarely get a cold that lasts more than 2 days.
Wow.
And I was saying, I wonder if I got COVID, because no one was worrying about COVID when we were in Baltimore. And by a month later, everything was shut down. So it was like
Uh-huh.
the anxiety was rising and I was sick, and it's like, well, I don't fit any of the profiles, so they're not going to give me a test. So I'll never know.
Oh, right. That's right. You couldn't just get a test back then.
No, they were only people who were deathly ill who'd been in Europe could get tests at that point.
Mhm.
People who were
That's
at death's door were being denied tests because they didn't fit the very narrow profile.
I ordered some tests, the free government tests, because I figured, well, before I had a while, I had like a month and before this weekend, before my first one in a while, and they still haven't been here. I thought I'd get it and do a test like today, and then
They take a while.
tomorrow take off for Denver, or well, not Denver. I wish I was going to Denver.
Des Moines.
Very,
and I
not
can't,
that expensive, and
I
then
can't do a test. They didn't send me the test yet.
But
Then
yeah,
there's
like,
the
One at a
drugstores, you can buy one.
Yeah, I don't want to buy
Yeah.
one.
but I think,
Not that
we,
expensive.
like Frank said, you can buy them, you buy order from Amazon, they'll be there in a day or so, but we were just in Europe, like I said, and we took them with us, and it was amazing, the peace of mind of having them.
Yeah.
Because you could test if you needed them, and
Yeah.
my husband did do a test one week because he just wasn't feeling good, but turned out to be negative. But we also found that our doctor, depends on who your doctor is. I asked my doctor what I should take with me, like over the counter, in case I got symptoms and stuff that helped. Well, that was the same as any cold medicine. But he freely gave me a prescription for the antiviral.
Nice.
Great.
Oh,
Paxlovid.
And so we took those with us too. And he was real emphatic, don't take them unless you have a positive test. I mean, don't mess around with these. And so we still have them, but they too are free.
Mhm.
You go to fill them at the pharmacist. It's just like vaccine, it's free.
Mhm.
We're all
Good
paying
to
for
know.
that somehow, but you don't have to pay
Yeah.
at the
Good
pharmacy.
to know.
But
But I
that's
don't care.
that's a good use of our tax dollars.
yes.
So we had them with us. We didn't have to mess around. If you're in a different town, you can't get a doctor to give you a test and get the prescription, because you're not at home.
Right.
If your doctor would give them to you. At that time, we didn't qualify to get them because we're not high risk. We would qualify now based on age, but at the time we did not. But he
Mhm.
gave them to us anyway. They didn't ask at the pharmacy. They filled them. It was like no big deal. We took them with us and we haven't used them, but it was really.
Sharon,
Have you
nice to
seen-
have.
Sharon, for your trip, did you buy comprehensive insurance?
We always
Travel.
do that. We always had that kind of medical, and which includes evacuation and care there and everything. Yeah. For anything
Okay.
else, we just,
I'm looking for a recommendation of which company to buy from.
I'll send you a note. I need to ask my husband because he does that, but I'll ask him and send you an
Thank you.
email.
Thank you. I'm going to go to
Karen, where are you
Italy.
going?
I'm going to go to Italy and learn how to weave on a jacquard loom. I am so ready for.
That
I want
sounds
to learn
great.
Something new. I need to grow right now. And
What
so
city?
I'm going to Florence and Perugia,
Oh,
and we'll
Oh
also
my
visit
God, wow.
to go to Rome. So I'm crossing my fingers we survive the art fair adventures before flying.
Have a wonderful trip, Karen.
That's
Sounds
great.
great.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. We're not used to doing things like this, especially at this time. And so, yes, we want to be prepared for all contingencies.
I think that we were in Italy in September. And at that time, compared to the United States, and when we were there this time, but not in Italy, I feel much more comfortable there than here. The people are more cautious,
In general.
more polite about it. Their vaccination rates are higher,
Yeah.
and everybody has outdoor restaurants there because that's the
That's
thing
what
there.
they do.
So it's easy to eat outside. We felt much more comfortable in Europe than we feel here on that subject. So,
That's great. Good to hear. Thank you.
Perugia is a great city.
oh yeah, that's great.
It's
I
been
have
interesting.
I have an unrelated question if I can try to sneak it in before this is over.
Sure.
Just from this group, we're open for applications now. Obviously, the winter shows are in the South are all open for applications. Do you have any hesitancy, or you think artists have hesitancy on applications because of gas?
Oh, yes.
That's a
It's a
good question.
concern.
Oh, yes.
It's definitely,
Yep.
yeah.
I actually, I'm
Everybody's
going
talking about
to,
it.
I'm going to run the numbers from my Chicago trip to see how much I spent on gas versus how much it would cost to fly. Even if flying is a little more, it's less time. So like for me, I can fly. So that might be, although some people have told me, and I know in the Chicago show, renting a tent is really hard. and very, very expensive. Not hard. It's just like $900 to rent a tent.
So that depends on where you are. I mean, I know you're not an artist that would come to Florida. I mean, you're on the, I'm assuming, because since you're on the West Coast, but here.
Well, I'm
there's
in New
really
Mexico.
strong-
I'm in New Mexico now. So,
Right.
so I hadn't before because I was in California.
I did that drive, I-10 all the way. When I
But-
did La Quinta, I actually went from Naples to La Quinta,
Oh, God.
3,200 miles. I think I'm still tired from it.
But in Florida, there's really much more economical tent renting because there's a company
Yeah.
here that rents artist
Yeah.
style tents, not commercial tents,
Oh.
but artist style
Mhm.
tents. And to get the tent and the pro panels is $250 to $300,
Yeah.
but they set
So-
it up and they put the weights on it. So,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
some value to that.
So the thing with the cost of gas is, still a person has to make a living. So, I mean, when you look at it, like I could compare my numbers from last year to Chicago versus this year. And so maybe it was $150 more.
Mhm.
I mean, so $150 given the bottom line, I don't think is a deterrent to do a show. So I don't know. What are other
Is that
people
100? That's
thinking?
$150 one way more.
No, I think it's round trip.
Jeez.
I drive something that requires diesel and it's over $6 a gallon right now. So I know it's going to make a difference when I drive from
But
Portland,
it's
Oregon,
more-
to St. Louis.
It's more expensive though where you are, Karen. Once you get, out a bit, it'll be at least $1 plus cheaper, $1.50 cheaper.
It's just I'm going to have to look for ways to be more economical with all my other expenses. Because the one thing I haven't done is really raise my prices because of this gas crunch. All I can do is just bring more inventory, hoping that I sell slightly more to just kind of average out the expense and the cost.
Do any of you think there's any elasticity in your pricing to be able to
I raised my prices.
offset some? I mean, Allison said she's trying to find $150. It wouldn't take much per piece to cover that.
Right.
I raised
What if,
my
but I'm saying,
prices.
actually,
We
I'm
all
saying, I don't know.
underpriced.
I'm saying, I don't know that I need to find $150. Like it's not going to ruin me. It's not like it's an additional,
Yes.
it's not like an additional $500.
Mhm.
If it was $1,000 for gas, right, instead of $500, say, that might be a huge difference. But I don't know that I really have to do much for $150. And
It
you know,
isn't
a
just,
lot.
it isn't just the driving. It's like for me, all my my materials are
Mhm.
more money.
Mhm.
My propane alone is twice what it was a year ago. Twice. You start adding all those things into it. And but listen, here's a good thing. I raised my prices on everything. My lowest price now is $150. I do these small pieces. They were $95 last time I went to Florida. They're $150. I'm selling more of them. I can't make enough of them. So the higher price actually has been greater, has been actually a positive. So, I can't figure that out because, economically, in economic theory, it would be like, well, I'd sell less, but I end up selling more. So
No,
I think
Well,
some
let
of
me tell
that
you guys
varies,
this-
I see a lot, many artists who, in my opinion, are underpriced
yes.
because
underpriced.
they're underpriced because it's just my opinion, look at them and I'm like, if you're only selling it for 95, I don't know,
Yeah.
And you made it and you invented the idea and blah, 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 blah.
And overhead costs.
Well, just my perception of the art
I see.
of
But the other,
thinking
the-
is like, well, how much is this really, or should I, versus it's 150. Or and how it's displayed, the artists, particularly ceramic and glass, who put too much on the table. I don't recall that you
Yeah,
do that,
that's-
Barry, but too much
I
on the
don't do that.
table. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of pedestaling it, making it look great and all that, and then it's like, oh, I would pay 200 for this. But if
Mhm.
it's all on the table, all with a whole bunch of other stuff, it's like, oh, I'm not gonna pay you 50 for it, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
there's a lot,
it's the
there's a lot to
perception
that
to that.
percent. Yeah, exactly.
Sharon,
I-
you can come into my booth anytime and tell me anything. No, I'm serious. In fact, I want to hear this, and people, I ask people and they back off. They won't say anything. They won't tell me what they really think. I really want to hear these. This is what I want to hear.
I
So
think you're
listen-
underpriced.
Yeah, he's
I
under-
definitely want to know that.
May I, please? I think I've told some of you this story, but 40 years ago, I had a marketing class and a guy came in from Seagram's. He had been selling Chivas Regal. He's the marketing director, and they had been struggling to sell it until they raised their price, and then sales went up because they were the premium brand
Right.
Scotch for Seagram's, but they were underpricing the other premium brands, and therefore they were lowering their perception of value simply by
Yes.
raising the price. They said, we're charging more because we're worth more, and people bought it.
Which
Mhm.
is why we all need an outside person, a friend, not in the field, to come into our booth, make some notes, and after the show at least tell us what they think, because that perception. I mean, I see beautiful pottery at this local artist market. Her glazes are gorgeous, and it's very garage sale looking the way she presents it.
Mhm.
And or you could take something that you buy at, I don't know, Pure One Imports, and it's in somebody's house that has good taste, and you think they bought this piece of art.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
By the way,
last-
Sharon,
The last mug that I bought, I love handmade mugs. The last one I bought, which was very recent, was
From who?
$75 for just a mug. I willingly paid it.
who did you buy it from? Which
Well,
artist?
I'm
75
trying to
for a mug.
remember.
I'm gonna start making mugs.
Because
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Bonnie, you turned me on to Mark Arnold ceramics, and I love his mugs, but it seems like such competition to buy them.
Oh, is it Mark Arnold?
I got a
It's the guy
story.
from Companion Gallery.
Yes, okay, that's him.
Yeah. And that would have been my $75. But
Yeah,
like
so I see-
Heidi Fehrenbacher, Barry, Heidi
Mhm.
Fehrenbacher?
Not by face, not by personal, but I might know the work.
You would probably know the work. She's from Plainwell, but her mugs start at 62 now, and it hasn't slowed down my buying.
That's
But
great.
I'm just so darn happy for her. We have all undervalued our work
Yeah.
for so many years, and
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I had
I
a
think
real hard
that
time.
all of you ought to have something that's, even more spectacular than usual at a really high price in your booth.
Yeah. Oh, Alice
And
always does.
and you should be playing with prices, that you can have two things that are of similar difficulty to make, but one looks more impressive, and just see, have a couple really expensive things in your booth and see whether people respond to them. And if they do, then you have room to raise your prices.
Well, Jerry Berta gave me the best advice ever. He did these handmade diners, all one of
Yeah.
a kind,
Oh, they were great.
with neon. And he said he
Yes.
finally learned the key to pricing is to keep raising the price because he couldn't keep up. Keep
Yeah,
raising
right.
the price until the sales slowed down, back it off just a little bit, and that's the price.
That's what I'm doing now, actually.
Good.
Jerry Berta had this, this was a phenomenal piece. It was a movie theater, and his style is 1950s Art Deco. That's what, so this movie theater looked like it could have been in Miami Beach, and you looked inside and he had seats and people, little people, and he had a little small, there was a screen, and he actually projected an old movie onto the screen. It was
Oh, wow.
fantastic. It was like,
Wait, I
it's
just want to
unbelievable.
say something, Sharon, about people traveling to shows, because I know like in the Florida season, people go to the state to do other shows and then they go to Texas.
Uh-huh.
So they're not really necessarily just driving round trip from wherever they live. So
Right,
that's another.
right.
So
Yeah,
where,
And
where,
we work hard on, many of us, not everybody, on making sure that the routing makes sense, right? Like, so that because we know you're gonna route, so staying in the right order. Like when Art Fest originally started, mostly because of reasons in locally, we were behind Coconut Grove, right? We were the last weekend in February, they're the second weekend in February, depending on the year. Well, as soon as we could, so then we got strong cancellation problem because people would sell on Coconut
Right.
Grove. So as soon as we could with local situation, we moved to the first weekend in February to get ahead of Coconut Grove.
Yeah, it's at a
And
good day. It's at a
very
good
smart.
date.
And so a bunch of us pay attention to that, that work together. And Larry brought up with me today, I guess it was when I was talking about something else. I'm not quite sure how one would carry this out, but about how we could do a better job of shows that are similar, that artists are going to get into similarly. You could argue who's higher show, but whatever, that they're going to get into similarly. Some way for us to help be sure that artists are in both or three. I mean, to help the routing situation, but then you get into how does that happen with the integrity of the jury, right? I mean, like,
It doesn't happen.
so it's an interesting thought, but I'm not sure how that happens without us saying, okay, we're gonna reserve space that we're gonna invite to different, I don't know how, that's complicated. You know,
and the
I don't know.
other thing is, are the distances such that the same people won't go to all those shows?
Yeah,
Well, they
because
would have
they'll
to.
come to us, and then probably Bonita's February show and then Coconut Grove. That would be, or Mardi Gras, depending on who you are. That would
Basically,
be a nice route for people who get into those three.
yeah, if you hold back like 10 or 15 spaces and have a separate jury for the combination of the multiple shows.
Mhm.
Oh, just opening up a can of worms.
Well,
Hey, I love being invited as
would you
long as,
drive
I
across
like
country
invitations as long as
for
I'm
one
one of the
show
ones that are
or for
invited.
3 shows?
I mean,
Typically-
I get the routing thing and that's a good thing to, I've been thinking about that since we talked this morning, Larry, about how that would work. My experience is that so far, the shows that would be routed like that have paid a lot of attention to our announcement dates and our payment deadlines and our withdrawal deadlines and things like that, so that artists can make informed decisions. I mean, we're up against Mount Dora too. And there's people who want to go to Mount Dora, that's a better audience for them, or for Boca Museum. But to try to keep those dates so that artists can make an informed decision and not
Yeah,
have to say yes when they're waiting, you know?
I like the way it is in Florida because I want to go down there for X amount of weeks. Sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's 6 weeks, and I can do a decent event every week. Now, they're not all great. There's only maybe 4 that are really
Right.
good, but so there's fill in. I can either hang out on the beach or do something on an off weekend, or just go and it'll pay my expenses for the week. The problem is, am I going to lose money? And there, there are times when I just don't sell it at an event. A lot of times it's one that I never did before, but I want to try it. So, but in terms of one every week, I think it's great. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good having a conscious effort to do that. And for a long time, Mardi Gras and Coconut Grove were the same weekend. I think
They are.
that's the way it is right now.
Yep.
I loved Coconut Grove. I did it for a year. I probably did it 30 times.
Where's Coconut Grove?
Miami.
Miami. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm looking
But
at a
here's the
map right
thing.
now.
I'm older. I'm more cranky. I don't know if that's possible, but it's an hour bumper to bumper to get into Miami. Then you're there. Then you get into the show. It's a compound. That's great. Hotel rooms are prohibitives, so you got to do really well if you do Coconut Grove. they charge 15 or 18 or $20 to get in, which is basically cut down the amount of people coming to it by about 75%.
Mhm.
So I don't go there anymore. I'd like to. I'd still like to. I like, I like selling there. I kind of like it, but there's so much, I want things to be easier. Like Fort Myers is really easy.
It's
You
easy.
drive up, the old guys are, there. It's the same people, volunteers. I know all the people. It's really great. You come up, they talk to, you talk to them, they talk to you, they welcome you. It's really great. It's people that because, you've done it for years. You drive in, you unload, you set up. It's real easy. Coconut Grove is just such a hassle. I do go to Mardi Gras, but I have a problem with Mardi Gras because there's a lot of, the quality issue is like not, it's just not the same. So
Where's Mardi Gras?
Jupiter, Florida.
West
Oh,
Palm.
yeah,
By West
okay.
Palm.
I know where that, yeah,
Trumpville.
I taught there, so I know
Okay.
where that is.
It's
Barry.
Trumpville.
You need to try Coconut Grove
Mhm.
again.
Mhm.
Camille, who
Yep.
I
used
know.
to be with Winter Park,
I
Right.
saw
got
that. Yes.
rave reviews.
She got rave
from
reviews. I know. I
everyone.
know.
And she's doing a lot of, she and I talk a lot because she also happens to be our t-shirt company before she got that job. Hopefully she still is, but we talk a lot that she's doing a lot of I think very artist friendly work and trying to really get that back to being a more
Yeah.
friendly show and working on
Yeah.
the layout and the setup, and
Mhm.
not a lot she can do about the hotel prices. I mean, it's prohibitive in Florida right now. But I think she's doing a great job trying to get back to that. And they have given up, I think it was this year, they've given up their big music stage. They've given up some other stuff to kind of get back to being an art festival instead of whatever that was for a few years.
Well,
So,
it makes me want to go back. Well,
mhm.
not
Yeah, I
going to,
know.
but,
I
you know,
know.
it
I'm thinking
just
about it.
hearing what everyone said
Mhm.
about the show just
Mhm.
gave me the warm fuzzies.
Mhm.
Me too. Me
And
too.
she actually physically ejected the artist who was that one that was identified as Bisel or whatever that
Yeah.
person was. She physically had them removed.
I
And
love
she
That,
got
that got
really
a lot of
great-
brownie points.
Yeah, she got
That
a lot of
was
brownie
real.
points for that.
People really appreciated that.
No, it wasn't Bisel.
Yeah.
It was an artist doing both that and an April show the same weekend. As a
Yes.
Oh, it
representative.
was
Or
that.
that,
Yeah.
right, that and Mardi Gras the same weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I
That was
met
a really
that
good
guy.
example of the fact that the directors know each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So a phone call takes care of that, right?
I met that guy after, after the shows, and I went, "Oh, is that the guy that got kicked out?" I didn't say anything because he was friends with friends, but I was thinking, "Oh, this is the guy that got kicked out of the show."
Well, my other question I wanted to ask was how many artists do you think are starting to invest in the good battery operated LED systems, which didn't exist even a few years ago, so that they have light in their tents, not even for a night show, but that they have light, particularly jewelers are the king of light in their tents, but
Yes.
Yeah.
but other people whose pottery looks better or glass looks better or paintings look better with light on it. Is that becoming a thing as that's become
Yeah.
a lower price point?
Yes,
Yes.
no, it's something we do.
Okay.
Even
Sherry,
with,
can I jump off
LED
that one? Just a minute, because with this current brain, I can't remember things long enough. One thing that you could do to really help offset the cost of gas is help artists find reasonable housing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The asking
I would
people
appreciate that.
that live in the area,
Mhm.
if they'll put up an artist,
Right.
just anything like that.
a home hosting
local-
program.
A
Mhm.
local,
Yeah.
a hosting, couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
A local college
Mhm.
that has dorm rooms that are empty, that might want to rent them out cheap for that weekend. I mean, there are lots of things that you can do. And
Local dorm rooms in Florida during the peak season are probably not empty.
Right, because
Yeah,
it's
college
not
oh,
students.
that's a
not
good
like up north.
point.
Yeah, we have challenges with that because it's our peak
Yeah.
season in February, but that doesn't mean there might not be the potential of a home housing thing. I guess one of the things I've always been concerned about that is the liability issue. And whether there is a liability issue, because we suggested that, Susie host you. But we
You'd
don't
just have
know.
to have, you'd have to have waivers, I guess.
Yes,
But
because
we-
we
I-
don't know either of you, right? So we don't
It's
know if Allison's
between-
gonna make trouble or if Susie's gonna make trouble, right? I mean,
You,
Well,
Between the
that's-
homeowner and the artist.
So I
Take
did a
you
home
out of
host,
the equation.
sorry, go ahead, Bonnie.
No, that's it.
I was hosted once in Boston and there was a questionnaire to fill out. Do you not like dogs or, all these things, allergies but it's true, they knew me and they knew the host happened to be a patron of the Society of Arts and Crafts. So it's true, not everyone was a stranger. And interestingly enough, this woman's father had invented the birth control pill.
wow,
Yes.
Yeah.
hopefully we get to still have them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Go on. Yeah, I
Hmm.
just had a thought about that.
Okay,
Well,
we can go
yeah.
back to where we were, but I just,
I'm going to say goodbye,
No, I like-
everybody. I'll see you next week.
Bye, Frank.
hi, Frank.
bye.
See you,
So
Bye-bye.
Art in the High Desert had a home hosting program. So that would be a question for Carla Fox and how that
Bye,
worked out.
Katie.
I'll ask her that.
Doesn't the
It's
person,
not my job, but
don't we all have, liability insurance anyway?
Well, we
I know that,
should.
I know that Fort Myers requires it, and it's really good to get the year policy. The individual policy doesn't really do much. But so doesn't that cover it if you're,
I don't
Staying
know.
somewhere.
It probably would if you named both, because you have to name us as additional insured.
Right, it's a
You-
The
rider.
homeowner.
inside the
You'd probably
show,
have to
so-
name the other person too. I don't know.
But you
I
are-
don't
but
think so.
also-
It-
but also you don't
it's
want
your
problems.
liability.
Yeah, but it's a rider on your
liability.
policy and it
Yeah.
doesn't cost extra. If
Right.
you have a business
Right.
policy.
But we also just don't want the issue, right? It's like,
Yeah,
if something happens, never mind the payment, we have to deal with it.
right.
Hey, you know
right.
what, Sharon? I asked ACT, the guy that owns ACT,
Mhm.
if any artist has ever filed, or any patron at a show has ever filed a claim against an artist, and they said no. It's it's never happened. The reason, but okay, so I say, well, why do we have to have the insurance? You have to have it just in case somebody trips and falls in your booth and sues you. It's so minute that it actually would happen, but yet we have to cover it because we have to, just in case we have to cover it. It's it's one of those things. It's frustrating because it's
But
an
the
extra
other
expense.
reason, Barry, is that the festivals were forced into that by their insurance companies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because the folks that write our insurance for the festival, Haas Wilkinson, those big companies have started requiring us to require you to give us a certificate because they're trying to transfer the liability that if the person tripped in your tent versus in our beer tent or something,
Mhm.
they can transfer that liability to your insurance company instead of ours. And so that we
Okay.
were forced into that, and everybody who's doing it's being forced into it.
Yeah, so I got a question to ask about that. Let's say your show or any show decided to take that responsibility, like you're gonna cover the liability. How much extra would your policy be for those 3 days?
Probably double. I mean, our policy right
Double.
now is
Be like-
5,700, something like that for the 3 days.
The
I'm
additional
not
should
sure
only
it's
be
the
a few hundred
additional
bucks.
is the fact that they won't give it to us.
Yeah,
They won't give it.
They won't give it to
Also,
you?
I won't write
anyone in business,
Shared
should
liability.
have business insurance.
Right.
yes. I can't believe all these people that are squawking about having to get a policy for one weekend or whatever, when
Well, don't
Right.
get them, and they shouldn't get a
I have
policy
it
for
in-
one weekend.
Should be the annual.
My annual policy is like
It's-
$800 and some dollars. But you know
Yeah.
what? If my booth flips over and hits someone in the head, I'm covered. It does
Mhm.
not cover my jewelry.
Yeah.
But I can handle that one much better than I can injuring someone or, geez.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always think if the weather, there's threats of bad weather, how do I just throw the jewelry into something and forget the booth that's replaceable and it's insured?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
but there's so many things that we can't account for. I mean, I have people come to my studio also,
Mhm.
and
Well, yeah.
and I teach. So, you want insurance so you never have to use it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a necessary expense.
Yeah.
I suggested to them that they get rid of the weekend policies that they sell because it really doesn't do anything. Make them pay get a yearly thing. Apparently they make plenty of money selling a $49 weekend policy as opposed to selling a yearly policy. It's probably all
because
profit.
somebody analyzed how many of those weekend policies are going to need to pay out.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's some artists that don't do enough shows to particularly emerging artists, newer artists, to justify the annual, so.
Well, it's
and
the
I
better.
think pardon me?
It's the better shows that require it.
Well, some artists, especially new ones, think that, oh, they're covered under their homeowner's policy, which of course you're not.
Okay. I think the new artists are doing the lesser shows. I mean, occasionally somebody applies to a more professional show and gets in, but I think they're doing the lesser shows. I think that the better shows are the ones that require it. Fort Myers, Cherry Creek, St. Louis, Fort Worth. Those are the ones that
Everybody.
require it. And the people that do those shows are the better artists. So we all have it.
Mhm.
We all have a personal policy because we know that we need it. A beginner isn't necessarily going to know that, or do it. So that, they don't.
Well, and
really have to
also if
deal
you're
with it.
starting out and you're working out of your home, maybe, and that kind of thing, I could see why you wouldn't even know to get it.
That's right.
that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. If they're
Well, I
doing a
think it's
local
happy
show.
hour, so I think I'm gonna go visit my husband. See if I can take him back.
I gotta pack my pots to leave tomorrow morning for Des
So
Moines.
Des Moines is this weekend?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, well, good. I
set
hope
up as
everyone sells.
Thursday.
I hope everyone sells out.
Well, I don't care about
Especially all the
everyone else.
jewelers.
I hope I sell out.
Especially all the jewelers, right?
I mean, I'm a 5.5 hour drive from Denver, so I'm ready.
Great, and I hope you get in.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's-
But I'd
it's
rather
pretty-
somebody sell out. I'd rather somebody cancel because they sell out than,
Yeah.
Something bad.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. It's pretty rare that somebody's gonna drop out of Cherry Creek, given the numbers that people
Well,
do.
I
there.
will tell you, at Old Town, there were some last minute cancellations.
Really?
People got sick. So, and they might not have had COVID, but I think everyone's being more prudent these days.
All right, well, good luck to everybody who has shows. Hope you all do awesome the next few months.
Thank you.
Well, forever,
Good.
but
Thank
for sure
you.
this summer.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
All
It
right.
was fun.
Bye.
All right.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Larry.
Bye.
Sure.
Hey, Larry.
What?
Oh, I have something for you. So send me your address in some sort of note.
I'll
I
reply
have
to
the
your
complete-
email.
I have yes, I have a complete collection of Daniel Silva books, except for the very latest one, which I don't have. But
Okay.
I bit the bullet and bought a news group pass, which allows me to get everything that I
Yeah, I know.
had before again, since I lost mostly everything.
That's where I
Um,
used to download porn. No, I can't say that. We're still
Sure you
recording.
can. You can say it to me. That is where the best porn is. So,
Okay.
well, it isn't
great.
anymore.